Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Ben, Grace, Alonzo. Unreal Season 2. We are late on the bandwagon on this one, but we are finally starting to recap one of cable's most talked about shows. I actually binged it all over the weekend. I did not get there the first time around. Although I have to say, I did not get into this show because I watched the first 2 episodes and I thought both times Rachel does a lot of like brilliant, awful stuff, and then she feels really bad about it. And I was like, oh, come on, I can't just do the bad stuff. That's all I want to see. And people kept telling me, no, keep going, keep going. And once you get past those first 2 episodes, she kicks herself in the pants a lot less.
Yeah, I think that's what it was with this show, is that it caught fire a little bit. It really got word of mouth going. I remember seeing the posters for it for the ad campaign, and I said, I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, that is not a show for me.
Yeah.
And then everyone was saying, if you like The Bachelor, if you like The Bachelorette, or if you hate them, you should really check out this show. And I rewatched the pilot last night just to kind of remind myself of how we got here. And I think the show just hits from the get-go. I think that pilot is incredibly strong, but I hear what you're saying. Rachel, I don't know if you ever really love her as a character.
No, nor should you.
Right.
One thing that I do like about this show a lot is that, there's that book, Difficult Men, about the kind of current golden age of TV. And it's, the Tony Soprano and Don Draper and Walter White and all those guys. And I feel like this is not only a show with really great, difficult women in it, but it's an hour-long show with difficult women, because usually they get 30 minutes. Nurse Jackie, Big C, the Weeds, 30 minutes. These are, I think, very complicated women, and I think that they are just as dark and fucked up and watchable and hateable and lovable as somebody of the best men characters we've been seeing on TV.
It's just such an onion of a show. I don't know if you ever, especially now going into season 2, I have no idea how I feel about Quinn. I love her. I think she's so sassy. I think she is, but I hate even saying sassy because I feel like that word is so frivolous to describe such a strong female character as, and I don't want to do that, but she's got all these quips, and she's just so smart, and she's cunning. But I don't know if I like her.
Well, I think that's, Alonzo makes a great point with the difficult men. I mean, with Michael Chiklis and James Gandolfini, who played these characters who were awful, but they were compelling, and you couldn't help watching them. And I think that's what Constance Zimmer has done with Quinn. You're not supposed to like her. There are moments, of course, when she stands up and she's a badass, right? And she takes charge.
You like her more than Chet.
Right.
Oh, God.
Although, man, I mean, again, it's these 3. I mean, Sherry Appleby, Constance Zimmer, Craig Bierko. These are really, they cast this really well.
It's cast so perfectly.
So, but I was watching the. Previously on Unreal, I watched it last season as it happened. It was a lark. I didn't think. I met Constance Zimmer at a party at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and she was on a really horrible show that I saw every episode of called Good Morning Miami.
Oh, right.
She was the producer of a local news show.
Which was your life.
Right. And so I just liked it because it was a show about local news, and I was like, of course I'm going to watch this. This is too interesting. It was terrible, but I was like, oh, Good Morning Miami's on, right? And she was great, and of course she's in House of Cards, and the show was coming out, and she was really clearly, genuinely excited about it, right? And so I watched it, but I didn't remember anything. And I think that's to the show's credit. Like, it is, we got enough shows from, you mentioned Breaking Bad when we were talking about this before, where, Better Call Saul, where you feel like you got to break down you got to let it sit. Game of Thrones, where
The Wire.
The Wire, these shows where you think about it and talk about it and think what's happening next. All this left immediately. But in that hour, you're more compelled than ever. And it's much like The Bachelor, and I've only watched a season and a half of The Bachelor, but and of course I start by watching it and doing what millions do and thinking, this is terrible. This is bad for the world. This has made the world a slightly worse place. And then you think, and I'm better than this. And then you're yelling at the TV, right? And you're yelling at the TV about how stupid it is. Of course, no one speaks on a speakerphone like that so everybody can hear. And then in that moment, I get hit with, oh, this is it. Like, this is all they're trying to do. I am exactly like everyone else. And I was watching this with my wife last night. And as that moment, as Madison is hearing Rachel in her ear,
such a great
my
scene.
wife is just up and going, no. And I'm like, wow, they've got something.
Yeah.
And it's and it's not like Madison is such a naif. I mean, she blew Chet for God's sake. So she, knowing exactly what she was doing, and has proven herself to be. And I'm not slut shaming her. I'm just saying she didn't just fall off the turnip truck.
Right.
So
she's not as they try and kind of play her off a little bit sometimes, or she plays herself off as very doe-eyed and just really green and innocent.
It's the
And
pigtails.
it's the pigtails. We know better.
Who had the great line about the pigtails? Was that Quinn or
It was Quinn,
or Rachel? Yeah. But then of course you heard it from Madison afterwards. As soon as she got through, as soon as she threw up.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Like she's fully.
And I
she's
think
fully in.
This is going to be interesting this season to see how they develop Rachel's relationship with Madison as sort of Rachel becoming
Sure.
the mentor. to
Right, becoming her
Madison.
Quinn, yeah.
Right, becoming her Quinn. And that's going to be kind of interesting to watch, just the origins. Because I think Madison is going to, I think there's a major arc happening with her.
And most significantly, of course, they are doing what, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, has it ever been done? Has there been a Black Bachelor? No.
There is not.
There's not.
Right. And because of the problem that they, at least network executives, don't feel they get past, I think we've seen America quite ready to get past this, is if you're going to have a Black Bachelor, you're going to have a mix of women, many of whom are white. And I get, as has been true, my father wrote about this in the book he wrote in 1977, that the perception is going to be among network execs, like, we cannot show these black men kissing and seducing our white women.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But of course we can, right? Of course we can. Nobody cares anymore. And the audience for The Bachelor particularly doesn't care. God bless them.
Yeah.
So I love that this show is right off the bat here in season 2, skewering that.
And I also love that they are addressing it head on. They are talking about race in a really frank
Yes.
way that I don't think we see on a lot of scripted television shows. They are talking about
Outside of Shondaland, yeah.
Right. It's true. And also they were talking about it. They want a terrorist. I mean, there's a scene where Quinn is listing off all the girls that are coming on this season of Everlasting, and she's listing them off, and it's like we have a
racist.
We have a racist. We have a crazy black girl or something.
The black activist.
Well, a black activist. We have a terrorist.
Right.
I mean, they're going to address all of that this season. I think season 2, now that they probably know that people slept a little bit on season 1, now they're all caught up from Hulu or whatever watching online. I think they're going to go hard in season 2 and address some really
Lifetime in general, I'm finding, is going in some really interesting. I mean, they've got the James Franco vampire remake of Mother May I Sleep with Danger coming up. They did this movie called Don't Wake Mommy that's directed by the guy who did I Know Who Killed Me, which is bananas. They're really, I think,
they've rebranded.
They're upping their game for sure.
Yeah.
And so, I think we're going to get a really interesting racial dynamics this season, but we're also, I think, getting really interesting gender ones because, Chet's stuff with Quinn and with the network, that's always been a matter of Chet is, because he's a dude, is able to have these meetings with these execs and, get stuff done where Quinn, even though she's actually the one with the ideas, can't. Now he's really upping that game, having gone through this Iron John retreat or whatever, and presumably his wife is still pregnant or has had the kid by now, however time has passed. But there's going to be a whole lot of men-women kind of dynamic going on here too.
And there's Constance Zimmer and Craig Bierko. That relationship's not. It's not over.
It's not done.
Yeah,
I think just like it said, let the best man win, and Quinn says she usually does.
Boom.
I mean, God, the writing on this is so good.
But I'm curious. They're going to get grief, and I'm curious how it'll be interesting to see how they handle it because, when they tackling race in such a upfront way, but not, and I like that, and you do clearly as well, but it's not delicate. And they're going to catch grief from all sides, I imagine.
Well,
when they embrace the idea of when they embrace stereotypes that obviously, God bless them, we're supposed to roll our eyes that they're embracing of stereotypes,
right?
But not everybody.
They're doing it interesting because they are exploring race in a way that a stupid show like The Bachelor would explore race.
That's right.
You would exploit race, and so it's kind of this great setup of eating your cake and having it too.
Right. We
where
get to do this.
Do the awful thing and then comment on how awful that is.
Right. I was gonna say, in a way, it is like a commentary. It's like this is what you guys have been watching. Are you aware of that? We're just going to be more overt. We're showing you the behind the scenes of what you've already been feeding into by watching shows like The Bachelor or other dating shows that have very similar sort of perspectives and how they address race.
I think they, you know, of course, we're at their best is the behind-the-scenes stuff, and it seems accurate. Not, of course, we get, you know, it's overly dramatic. It's a television show. Nobody on The Bachelor killed themselves, right?
A lot of there's actually a running list online of people who have been on reality shows who later killed themselves.
Yeah.
That may
We're
well
up
be.
to like 20 now. or
Yeah.
Well, of
something.
course, we've hit some threshold where that's just you've had 25,000 people on reality
Well, yeah,
shows.
that's it.
Some percentage
I don't know how the per capita compares to the population at large, but
But one thing I thought this episode where it strayed incorrectly was in Craig Bierko's stealing of the star of
Yeah.
the suitor. It's great. Of the suitor, and then he's with the network executive. Like, does the network executive not get that they had a show produced and like he's going to bring it to the other? Like, how did that? How did this happen?
the one thing about this show, besides those first 2 episodes that bug me, that I have to kind of put aside is knowing anything about how television actually works.
Right.
Because, like, for example, the premise of this show is that each week's episode airs,
Right.
and like a week elapses between episodes, rather than the way they would shoot this real show, which is like in about a 4-week period or whatever.
Probably
And-
9 weeks is probably right.
yeah,
right.
but nonetheless, the premise is that between episodes of you know this program, people in America are responding to them, and so like the next episode gets made after everybody's watched the last one, which is not how these shows
Of course, that's true.
get done. So that stuff. The idea that like contracts seemingly mean nothing. I mean, in the
Right, that's
first
what I mean. That-
in the first season, Ben was going to walk out, or whatever that guy's name was.
Right.
Gonna,
He hadn't even
Adam
signed
was-
a contract.
Yeah, Adam was going to walk out, and at the last minute they had to renegotiate, and then again they've got just renegotiate. Like, you signed a like super ironclad, paying millions and millions to the network if you try and walk out on this contract in real life.
So yeah, I
know.
don't. Right. So obviously they have to change that because the show needs to happen in a way
That's drama, yes, I get it.
that's dramatized. But little things like a guy coming in with the network executive and taking the star of the show away while they're shooting the show and saying, "No, we're going to do it here. Bring the women here." I mean, you got no lights. Like, you have no. Like,
Yeah.
Even in that
That's-
world,
I was
that
like,
one,
where's the crew here?
Right.
They're-
That one bothered me because they broke their own rules. But it's a minor point for a show that is incredibly delightful.
And I loved I loved how the Rachel Jeremy thing where he says the awful thing, she has to suck it up, and then she fires the focus puller.
Right. So that's where it's real, like where you get the feeling that there probably is something. There probably is a kill list,
Yes.
right? Where the crew waits for the women to get knocked off from the show so
Oh,
that
yeah.
they can have their way with them.
Well, I know that happened one season on The Bachelor. There was a super awkward encounter where Chris Harrison was told to take a contestant aside, and he basically had to say, you know, we know you've been hooking up with one of the producers, and this was on live television. I feel like that was one of those peek behind the curtains that were sometimes treated to The Bachelor.
At the first Real World, the woman who was, I always called her.
Real world, where the gay rights movement started.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
knew?
Thanks for that, Rachel.
Yeah.
I mean, she has a sort of a point.
Yeah, I
but,
got you, yeah.
Anyway, I never remember her name. Not Suzanne Vega on that episode, on that season, had an affair with like one of the cameramen or producers or something, and he got fired, and none of it got mentioned on the show. And I was like, well, that's how I know this isn't really a documentary then, because if it were, you'd have talked about it.
That line of either, I guess, Quinn's to Madison, maybe it was Rachel, because again, those characters, they blend.
Yeah.
You can't
They
remember.
do.
And then now there's cute Rachel, so you know,
Yeah.
I know, that was great.
or hot
but-
Rachel, whatever they
Sexy
call it.
Where
Sexy
they're like,
Rachel.
we're not problem solvers.
We're creating them.
Right, we create them. Like, do you not get what's happening here? I don't know.
Oh yeah, when Madison is like, she wants to switch rooms.
Well, one's a racist and the other one's black. I don't think we should have them together. They're like,
You
no!
don't understand.
don't quite get what we're doing. And that's the stuff that they're so good at is you see how producers create tension. I mean, go in there, mix it up. I hear that she's been sneaking with the with the guy with the suitor behind everybody's back. Who takes a beating here, probably unfairly, is Chris Harrison. Because they have made that character the
Yeah.
emptiest suit in television. Yeah.
He's kind of the new Hank Kingsley.
And I hear super nice things about Chris Harrison in general.
I'm sure he's lovely.
But it has the same effect as The Bachelor do, man. You start yelling at the TV, which is...
Oh, you know, the worst is the guy who hosted that sci-fi show with the makeup people.
Face Off.
Yes. Ugh, I hear just the biggest pain in the ass in the,
Really?
in the whole industry.
I love. see, that's the thing. I love reality shows, and I also love Unreal, and I love the kind of peek behind the
No,
curtain.
I was talking about him.
Oh, I was
Wait.
hot set.
Hot set. Sorry, I forgot.
I was
about
like,
that.
wait, Face Off.
I'm not talking
I was
about
thinking
Face
like
Off.
Face Off. I was like, who?
No. I was talking about him.
Nobody. Yeah,
I forgot the name of the show you
If you-
hosted.
That guy was an empty suit.
Oh my god.
The guy who hosts Face Off is probably a lovely individual, and I've never heard anything about him in my life.
Woman, right?
It's a
I was
woman,
like,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
gotta be
That
a woman
too,
who
yes.
does Face Off.
No.
I was like, man, I must really.
That
not
was
like
that joke
show.
mislaunched. Never mind.
No, I like that was me. Damn it.
I'm
Grace.
just Mankiewicz is he's a part of the tribe, so he's got to speak up for Chris Harrison.
That's right. TV hosts need to stick together. You know, I mean, we
Bros before co
Yeah,
contestants.
yeah.
You know, right, we face discrimination that you guys just would not
never
You
understand.
guys would never.
Right.
I can't imagine a scenario
different.
where you would understand it. So anyway, good stuff. Obviously, it's off to a strong start.
Absolutely.
And I don't know a show that is as well led by its three leading cast members. Like these three are so good and
Yeah.
so.
Well, I mean, come on. Have we already forgotten Better Call Saul? I mean,
No. I mean, that's a different. But it's a like because they're so over the top. It's almost, in a sense, harder to cast people who are going to play these extreme versions
Right.
of humans who don't exist. Look, Better Call Saul Better Call Saul's in a different world.
I hear you.
Yeah.
This is sort of like, they keep trying to bring back this sort of sudsy like dynasty type shows, and they don't really quite land in the
That's right.
modern day. But this is along
landing.
that line.
And also, I think
Mackenzie
it's,
Westmore. Right? That's the host of Face Off.
okay.
Oh yeah.
If you
No,
say
you're
so.
right. It is Mackenzie. No, I think
Bless
it's
her
also
heart.
worth noting that these, especially Quinn and Rachel, what I love about it is it's two women who are of a normal age that you still do not really often see represented on television. In just
That's right,
of
totally.
just two women in their 30s, 40s, living their independent lives, not trying to they're not 30s trying to look 21, or they're
Right.
very comfortable with where they are in life. And I think that's important. I didn't realize that you don't see female characters like that a lot that are just
No. you
Again,
definitely-
outside of Shondaland.
again right. Shondaland is always going to be the asterisk.
Yes.
And by the way, since I mentioned her name, in my experience when I was hosting Face Off and had to do a little cross promotion with Mackenzie Westmore when I was hosting Hot Set and had to do that with Face Off, she couldn't have been lovelier.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Big fan.
All right.
You should see what she said about you, though.
Yeah. 6 glorious episodes and canceled. Thanks for watching, everybody. Back next week.